I think you can have everything. You can do everything. You can be everything. You just can't do it all at once. And I think that the idea of balance, candidly, is BS.
Mandy, welcome to Resilient Entrepreneurs. We're excited to have you on the podcast today.
Oh my goodness. I am so excited to be here. Thank you both for the invitation.
Thank you. Well, we're going to start off by hitting with the hard questions. And that's going to be, if I were to hand you a magic wand today, what change are you going to make in the world?
Mm. Having been a leader of GoBundance Women, this tribe of leaders, I'm a leader of leaders, right? And a thing that I see is women just don't trust their judgment, and in the way that we see our male counterparts trust their own judgment. So the magic wand hex that I'm going to put on the universe is I'm going to help women realize their own power and trust their own judgment so that they can move forward into to build the life of their dreams.
Oh, I love that. So, why is that important to you?
It's what I've lived personally. I think my entire journey, and in this vein of resilience, the everything gets better when I'm not looking outwards, when I'm looking inwards and can really believe in what I've learned and who I am and my gut instincts and my intuition. And if the moment that I trust my own judgment is the moment that I lean into the life that I'm meant to live, to serve the planet as I'm meant to serve the planet. And the more I can be just this catalyst for anyone else to realize that it matters for you to figure out what matters to you, and your judgment is something that is worth trusting. Because I'll tell you an example. Like every time I get into these bigger rooms, I meet people who are in charge of, like, they're the cutting edge of capitalism, guys. And I meet them and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're in charge of what? My girls and I, we can run circles around you. And that's not in a mean or terrible or judgmental way. It's the only difference between you and me is not that you're smarter, is not that you're more powerful. It's that you have trusted your own judgment in a bigger way than I trust my own. So that is the thing that I lean into and that I'm really banging tables over.
Shivers down my spine. Just can we pause? Can we pause for a moment? Let that sink in, ladies. The only difference between somebody who's doing something that you want to be doing and you not doing it is you're not trusting your own judgment. It's a biggie. It's a biggie. It's definitely worth having a magic wand around, I'd say.
It's definitely not a small undertaking, but I think it is the primary focus. If you could pick one big thing to run after, whatever big thing you're doing in your life, if it's parenting, I buy apartment buildings. That's kind of my entrepreneurial shtick, aside from running this women's group. But the decisions that I'm making in terms of what to acquire and what to do with leasing and all of the big decisions that happen, it's on me to make those decisions and trust my judgment and stand behind it, right? So that the most successful people I see really do the reps that it takes to get to earn the right to trust their own judgment. But once they get there, they just absolutely own that.
Mm. Let's speak into that a bit. I mean, what are those reps? What does it take to trust your own judgment? You sound like a woman who's walked that walk, who perhaps may have not started off always trusting your judgment or yourself. Can we call it trusting yourself as well? Um, is that kind of the same thing in your mind?
I think it's completely fair. I think it's trusting yourself in your decisions, right? I come to this entrepreneurial stuff from acquiring apartment buildings, right? And there are a set kind of step of things that you need to figure out to see if your discernment is reasonable enough. And I do think that in this goal of trusting your own judgment, it's a fine line, just like lots of things in life that are really worth pursuing. It's this balance of, like, what am I doing now? Am I analysis paralysis, or am I not going into that because of fear? And I know for me personally, when I started buying these larger assets, because I'm just some farm kid who asked a bunch of questions and failed forward and got over this need to be perfect. I think that if you've read read the book or seen the podcast that talk about girls are taught to be perfect and boys are taught to be brave. The if you're a high performing girl, you need to be perfect and raise your hand and do everything exactly right. This tendency of when you want to trust your own judgment, you think you'll be able to if you're just perfect. If only I were perfect, right? And there's actually a book that I've loved called The Psychology of Money that talks about being reasonable enough. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be reasonable enough. So that really affected me personally when it came to what do I need to decide? What decisions do I need to make in order to know that I put myself out of harm's way, that I've mitigated whatever risk I can so that whatever downside, that full downside is not going to happen because I've done my very best and I've been reasonable enough in the process. That really helped me a ton, Vicki.
Okay, so what just like hit me like a ton of bricks was when you just said girls are taught to be perfect and boys are taught to be brave. And we talk a lot on this podcast about imposter syndrome and doubts and risk taking and all these things that maybe hold women back. And we don't, I haven't thought of that underlying back to childhood potential cause of that. And that's so true. And it's kind of blown my mind a little bit. So thank you for stating that. And thank you for stating in that way, because it's important, as a parent myself, I want to be more aware of making sure my daughter is brave, and my son is, too. But like, wow, that just makes a lot of sense why men tend to go and take more risk than women. And women tend to get stuck in that imposter syndrome space of I'm not good enough. Do I deserve to be in this room? Like you were just saying.
Well, I mean, look at the jobs that we give kids. And this is not a Mandy idea. This is the CEO of Girls Who Code, who I have a tremendous girl crush on. You should absolutely look up her TED Talk. I'll link you guys to it. But it's this idea of the jobs you give girls as children is stand here, honey, and cook with me, or stand here, honey, and fold this laundry. And jobs you give boys are go mow the lawn out there and figure it out. Right? It's just this training that's culturally, it's not good, bad, or indifferent. It's just something to completely be aware of.
Yeah, this is it. So now, as adult girls, we get to relearn it all. We get to try this out in our business. And as entrepreneurs, which is our audience, the people who are listening and watching this, are already doing something and trusting their own judgment. Now, let's not lose the sight of the fact that already they've lent in to what feels unfamiliar, what feels pretty scary at times, what feels like a really crap idea. And why on earth did I start going down this line? And then we remember, of course, that's why, because our why is big enough and we have a purpose and we know that we have meaning in life and we want to create something or share an incredible idea. So how do we bring all this learning into our entrepreneurial journey? And particularly because we're really big on women seeing their own greatness first and then sharing it, having a voice, putting a voice to their ideas. This is, it's another word for personal branding. We've got to stand up. We've got to have our opinions heard and really not just heard, but making a difference. Your thoughts, Mandy?
Oh, I mean, I think that decisions would be different if boardrooms had more women in them. And my partner in GoBundance Women, she bangs tables over the venture capitalist dollars that go to women, and it's so few. It's like 6% of VC dollars end up going to women. And these boards, these C-suite boards of directors, that they are so heavily male. And I love doing business with dudes. Like I would not be an apartment building buying if I didn't love my partnership with men. That being said, my way of looking at things is different purely because of the life I've lived on this planet. And you can't tell me, I live in the United States, right? The dyes and the problems that we have with food and the stuff that is going wrong just from a systematic level, that those decisions would be different, in my humble opinion, if there were more balance in terms of gender in those big decision making rooms. So it's on us as female leaders to champion other women, because if we are in a position that, I know that I've done this, like I have sometimes thought, oh no, I trust that guy more rather than giving this girl a chance. Like I know that I've done it, and I know that other female leaders have done it, because honestly, if we look at our mother's generation, in capitalism, there was just like the one woman who got the big job, right? And if you were a woman who did not have that big job, it was just that one, so you kind of had to hate her. There was just like this inherent, like, if it's not me and it's her, then that's not cool, right? But now where we're at, there are more seats at the table, so it is incumbent on us, on this generation that we are in, as female leaders, as female entrepreneurs, to lift up each other. I say a lot, you get two arms for a reason, one to pull yourself up and one to pull other people up with you. And that is what we are forming at GoBundance Women, this opportunity to be a good old girls club and really lean into the stuff that matters, because the balance that a woman needs to see, especially a mother needs to see and feel, is different than the 1970s man who ran a company. I want to experience my kid's life. I want to scale my business to 9 figures without sacrifice.
Yeah. And believing that it's possible is the first step, right? I think for so long we haven't believed it was possible because we were told that it wasn't. It was impossible for women to have it all, and yet it's about us. How do we create what is right for us? Whether you want to build that business or you want to, whatever you want to do. It's about having that power and control and belief that everything is possible. And that's why I so hear you when you say, like, as women, we need to champion each other, support each other, get into community with each other so that we're building each other up and helping cement those beliefs in that it is possible. And
Mm.
being the ones, maybe we need to be the VC, when we reach a certain level, we need to be giving back. How do we give back into the entrepreneur ecosystem and help the next woman build the next business? Because women are going to build a different business than a man will, right? And we need more of
Absolutely.
that. But I feel like there's this big push to go back to traditional, which I don't, I don't know. I don't live in the United States. So I'll say, I try to stay away from politics. And I don't want to get too heavy into politics in this podcast, but I see the political push for women to go back to traditional roles, back into the home, back to raising kids, the concern of the declining birth rate and all these things I'm seeing men pushing back on. What do you think about that?
I think you can have everything. You can do everything. You can be everything. You just can't do it all at once. And I think that the idea of balance, candidly, is BS. It's whenever I am doing anything, I am all the way there. I am 100% with you. And when we are done, guys, I am 100% mom. And I'm not going to have my phone. And the memories are made in the all in, no matter what you're doing. The impact is made on the all in. When I'm on a call for one of my assets, I am all the way there. So I think the diffuse awareness that women have, that we can see what's happening and notice that that's messy over here and our brain is barking at us, that is a blessing and a curse in many ways, that our male counterparts, they don't see the ketchup if it's behind the mustard. Their ability to focus is just inherently better than us, right? So how do we harness what's great about us and be able to keep all these plates spinning, but really focus in on the one big thing when you're doing it? Because I'm here to tell you, I've learned from my counterparts at GoBundance Women, we do this special call where people who make it to a 10 million net worth and up, it's a different win if your net worth is that high versus, if you're growing up to that, right? And the single greatest straight line that I've seen, guys, is that people understand that they are their own bottleneck at a certain point. So and women, we are so good at doing all the things, and I just put a load of laundry in before this guy, so I am guilty,
So did I.
So end of the day, right? But end of the day, like, how do I build a team and inspire the people and do the thing of the, focus and vision casting that I am really great at, and let the people that I've hired who are smarter than me and better than me, and I will say very much more organized than me, do the things that they are so much better at. So I think that that is a big thing, right? You can do all of the things, but you don't have to be the one using your own dang hands, because that will become a bottleneck to your growth.
So much in there, so much packed in there, Mandy, so much. So my takeaway from all this is presence. Okay, I'm just going to bring it right back to presence. You talk about being absolutely focused and all in on the one thing we're doing. That is a wonderful distinction. That is a key takeaway for me. I think it's one thing that is worth highlighting for our audience. If there's anything you take from today, and there's going to be a lot of things, that one thing about just being fully present when we are doing anything, which means we're all in. We don't have to be perfect and have all the other spinning plates also being taken care of. When we have presence, in my view, the world slows down a bit. Yeah.
Mm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
that rush, that sense of having to be everywhere at once. It stops, because we think about it, we can only be in that one place at one given time. In our mind, we're in 100 other places. And are we enjoying what we're doing? Are we giving it everything we've got? Like you said, Mandy, are we truly delivering to the value and the quality that we expect of ourselves? It's quite an irony, isn't it? We talk about being perfect, and yet, if we're everywhere and everywhere and nowhere, how can we possibly be perfect?
Mm.
How can we possibly succeed?
Hey there, sorry for the interruption, but if you're a woman entrepreneur ready to raise your profile, expand your reach, and start being seen as the expert you already are, we have a challenge for you. Vicky and I have created a free guide called the LinkedIn to Latte Method. Check it out in the link below. It's designed especially for women who are done playing small and are ready to attract opportunities, clients, and increase your visibility. No tech overwhelm, no awkward call DMs, just clear, authentic strategy that works. So download the free LinkedIn to Latte guide below, take the challenge, and start turning your brilliance into real opportunities. Now, back to the episode.
I think that it takes some pressure off. If you like, it's backwards thinking, but go with me here. That if I make the promise to myself that I'm going to be all in now, that mom guilt of my kids are upstairs without me, like that goes away, because I know that I'm going to be all in the moment that I'm with them. And to speak to that focus idea, one of the visuals that I always picture, Vicky, is if I'm standing over water holding pebbles, 50 pounds worth of pebbles, and I drop them, 50 pounds worth of pebbles, it'll make a splash, it'll go deep, and there will be a ripple effect. But imagine that I have a 50-pound single boulder, same amount of weight, same amount of time, same amount of focus, same situation. If I drop that over the water, what happens? It goes so much deeper. The splash is so much bigger. The ripple effect goes on forever, seemingly, right? So it is up to me to decide, do I want to give my focus in terms of pebbles and be everywhere all at once? Or do I want to be the boulder, the going as deep as humanly possible? And that focus really does take the pressure off of the feeling that I do need to be everywhere at once.
That was profound what you just said there, because I really felt that. Like I felt the literal weight of it. Because yeah, right. It's so centering when you think about like just bringing that focus really deep, really central, instead of trying to be everywhere all at once. Because I think we do worry so much about dropping all the balls. But someone told me once, you're always going to have a lot of balls in the air. Just don't drop the glass ones. Let the rubber ones
Yes.
bounce. And I was like, oh, because man, some days it feels like everything's bouncing all around and you've dropped a lot, but there's only a few that are super important, and when you can focus in and hone in really on what's the most important, then the rest will get figured out. And maybe you get help. Maybe that's the time when you need to ask for help. Maybe that's the time when you need to hire more staff. Or, someone told me once, we're discussing whether or not to get a cleaner. And they're like, well, what's the value of your hour worth? If you could like not spend 4 hours of your week cleaning, could you make more money in the 4 hours than you would spend on a cleaner? And I was like, oh, that's such a good point to think of it that way. But often we think, no, we have to do all the things. We have all the responsibilities. we were brought up to clean the house. That was my
Hmm.
chore every Saturday morning, was cleaning the house, right? So like handing that chore over feels, it's amazing what goes so deep. And we just need to analyze it and have these types of conversations to say, hey, is this working? Is this reality? Is what I believe actually true? That's why I like what you're doing, because I think you're really trying to help shift the mindset of so many women. It's
Just
beautiful.
because you can doesn't mean you should. That is the thing your girl Mandy repeats to herself all the dang time. We actually did a book study on Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. That honestly, I had some ugly crying epiphanies about my need to cause chaos in my business because, like, I feel at home in chaos. And while I might have put some therapy knowledge to use in terms of my relationships, I hadn't put that together on my business stuff, right? And I think that the moment that you realize that scale makes things easier, if you haven't read 10x is easier than 2x, totally look at that. It's a thing that I experienced in my own life with my apartment buildings. There's a spot where if you're trying to do everything and you want to do double of all of the things that you're doing, you will not sleep at night and you will be burned out and you will go psychotic, right? But if you are just leaning into systems and leaning into like working on your business rather than in it, that you are scaling in a way that you're not the one doing the thing. If you recognize that doing more things is the opposite of helpful, and getting out of your own way is the path to the life that you want to live, then your business is going to scale immediately. You are never going to scale a business
Mm.
to your net worth beyond your self-worth, right? So you really have to own, and women do not ask for help, guys. I think this belief that we have to be the one to handle because we can doesn't mean we have to.
Love that. Your business will only grow as the business worth will only grow as much as your self-worth, which comes right back to the beginning. And you were talking about that magic wand for self-judgment. Where is your self-worth, ladies? I mean, I trust that we're all successful in our own right, and we're doing some really spectacular things. And yet, oh my goodness, the amount of incredible women we see, who we work with, who we talk with, who we brush shoulders with through podcast interviews like this, and just clientele as well. Incredible things they're doing, and they just don't see it. They just
Mm.
don't see it. They don't see it as anything special. It's just, well, that's what I did because that's what I wanted to do. Or, like incredible international wins. And, well, that's nothing special. That's just what I said I'd do. So I did it. The self worth thing is really, that's where the ripple effect happens.
I think that, I could not agree more. And I've a thing that has in the past frustrated me is that when I believe with like a big theory, then I don't know how to put it into use. Like, oh yeah, Mandy, I agree with you. Self worth, self like admiration, like the trusting my own judgment, that matters. But now what? But that's for you, that's not for me. Right? I think one thing that helped me, because guys understand that I'm some farm girl who was scared to death, who had a panic attack in a hospital parking lot, which is really what led to my willingness to lean into the stuff that mattered for me and design the life that I wanted for myself. So an actionable step for you, a little baby step number one, is if anything happens that you're like, oh, that was pretty cool, how do you celebrate it? Like I bought out a business partner in a deal that was like a very difficult deal, and I ended up buying her out. And now I have completely turned this asset around like 180 degrees, guys. And I'm like, oh, it's fine. This is just what I do, right? But even if it's just like a fancy coffee, like I went and bought myself a fancy coffee and I sat in silence and just thought of all the stuff I was grateful for. The next time you experience anything that you were proud of, like if you've had a hard time getting your kids on the bus and you just did it flawlessly, sit down for 5 minutes and think about the things you're grateful for, because that will start to rewire your brain into celebration, into gratitude, which is where the real abundant stuff starts to take off from. So make sure you're doing that whenever you're proud.
Yes. And Vicky has brought up and discusses a use of a brag book. Same kind
Ooh.
of thing, where you're constantly putting into a notebook of your choice things that you're proud of. Even the small things. Like you said, I think we forget to celebrate the small things. And, we focus on the big goal or the main thing, and it feels so far away, and, it feels so impossible, but you're forgetting to celebrate all the steps that get you there. Right? Yeah, which is so important.
Yes. I have a folder in my photos on my phone called Who I Am. And there's stuff that I'm proud of, right? Like the 20 years ago, I ran a half marathon and I didn't think I could do it. And at the end, I remember sobbing. I was so proud, then I started doing one in every state. And then I climbed a 50-foot pole, like all of this stuff, just a screenshot of the thing that matters to me. And if I'm ever in the dumps, like it's really neat to look back through and remember, like, she got it. She should trust herself because look at who she is. I one last hack on that, guys, that might be actionable for your listeners here is, if we are trying to become this better version of ourselves, if you can just start with the end in mind, decide the person that you want to be, and then decide what she would do. How does that person actually act? And like Mandy, 20 years from now, whenever I have a problem that I don't know how to solve, I sit down and I have a conversation with Mandy 20 years from now. And I try to figure out, is she pissed off that I didn't do that thing? Or is she really proud that she trusted her own judgment? That is a really great way for me to figure out if I'm just not doing something because I'm scared, or if I'm not doing something because it's my intuition. I actually found a picture of this woman that I'm growing into, and I keep it up on my cork board so that I can always have this reminder of the woman that I am becoming.
Oh, yeah. Because what are the things that hold us back from trusting our own judgment? And what are the things that stop us from becoming that woman? Because we stop ourselves, but why? What,
Yes. Yeah.
Different-
I mean, so much of it is like that something might go wrong,
Mm.
right? At least in my little world, the women that I get to help start buying apartment complexes, like, is there a toilet that's going to break? Yes. Is there like a gate is gonna a wreck is gonna happen? Yes, those things, there will be problems. If you are, write this down. If you are signing up to be an entrepreneur, you are signing up to solve problems, right? So a thing that I really coach women to is, can you, instead of the little bitty problems that that are gonna happen, can you just imagine worst case scenario? It's very like stoic philosophy. Think absolute worst case scenario, right? That's that I'm gonna lose the building, right? So how do I mitigate and get really comfortable and mitigate the problems that could happen so that I know in my gut that it's not going to happen, and I just manage towards that? So think an absolute worst case scenario, not like the little bitty guys.
Yes, I love that. Worst case scenario. And we think, oh, that's doom and gloom. But actually, what you're doing is you're preparing yourself for all the scenarios. And it doesn't mean that you have to believe. I mean, it's quite the opposite. You don't want to believe that the worst case scenario will occur. You just mentally and physiologically as well prepared so that it's the F word that gets in the way of our success, It absolutely is. We're just so fearful that if something goes wrong, we won't cope. We won't have a response. We won't be resilient enough. Like when you say, what's the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing that can happen is that we're going to test our resilience. We're going to see what we've got. We're going to learn to be a little bit more flexible, and we're going to get through. We're going to get by. We're going to learn and grow. We're going to expand our awareness, our experience. It's going to be take the unfamiliar to the familiar. And yet fear is the thing that blocks us. So I love this conversation. And Mandy, you've referred a couple of times to your background. Would it be okay for you to share with us just a little bit of what your journey was? What took you from farm girl to GoBundance, woman leader, cheerleader, and incredible entrepreneur?
All of the jazz hands, girl, all of them. So I grew up in a town of 800 people, and I just say I didn't fit in. And I knew that wasn't for me. My dad's a farmer, so if you ever need to bale hay, I can help. but I followed, I found that my path out, like I knew that my path to something bigger was going to be sports. I played volleyball, and I ended up following a volleyball scholarship to a little college in Georgia called Mercer University. And then right as soon as I finished that, I ended up moving to the city of Chicago. I ended up on the floor of the Board of Trade. I did a master's in economics. And then I realized I did not care for being in a dark room clicking a mouse after having been on the floor. So I ended up leaning into the science background that I had and was in medical device sales for the bulk of my career. I actually chose not to go to medical school because I didn't want to be on call. I knew I wanted a life of flexibility to choose what I was doing with my time. And I leaned into medical device sales. And one of the ironies of the universe, guys, is that I ended up on call in medical device sales. And I was, just a newly minted single mom. I was getting divorced, and I had been number 5 in a company of 500 reps. And my, I don't know if any sales reps are out there, but your number that you have to hit the next year after you knock it out of the park is always way high. And I wasn't hitting it that subsequent year. And my boss is like, you need to go find more patients. And he was asking me to like look into records that I knew was not okay. I knew it was like it was beyond my moral compass. It was beyond what was candidly legal. So I realized after my panic attack in that parking lot that, wait, I'm not going to be homeless and penniless and under a bridge. I have, call it $3,000 a month coming in at that point from my apartment buildings that I'd been acquiring on the side. We're going to eat rice and beans, me and my little son, but we're not going to be homeless. The worst case scenario is not that terribly bad, and I will not be dead, and I got this, right? And then I realized if I lean into the real estate stuff, the acquisition of these assets that don't take up brain space, that just bring me income, then I'm going to be able to, build more and more every single year instead of starting that number over every year. And then I get to live my dream of being the mom who gets to go on field trips with my kid and scale a 9-figure business. So starting in 2021, I had enough real estate that it eclipsed what I made in my medical device sales. So I was able to leave my W-2, and I've been leaning into that ever since. So passive income, buying things that people need forever, and showing up fully wherever I'm at is the now.
Wow. Wow. It's such a good reminder to people as well. If you are in a job where is not your forever job, have a side hustle. Have a side hustle happening, or like you start investing, right? It's those things that help make the leap into entrepreneurship softer, right? The landing is not
Mm.
so hard. It's not so scary. And it's really important. And I don't think like school doesn't teach us this, right? We're taught to go learn
Mhm.
this stuff and go get a job and be the best at your job and climb the corporate ladder. But without something to land on, if that corporate job goes sideways, or like you find yourself in a position where you can no longer do it, you're going to need a plan B. So there's nothing wrong with that plan B. And I've seen people build like businesses where they were doing crafting things and turn that into full-time jobs. There's so many
Mm.
opportunities out there. It can be a hobby, it can be something you love, something you're passionate about, or maybe just a gap you see in the market, which is what entrepreneurs are here to do, is find that thing that's missing in your world, in society at large, and fill it. And that's what we're really, really good at. So be thinking of that. Even if you've got the job, that's paying the bills, there's nothing wrong with having that side. So anybody out there that's a side hustler, we see you, we hear you, keep going. There's
Oh,
always a win in that.
I love it. And if you haven't figured out the idea yet, I would encourage you to try to think of something that's scalable. Because if if your crafting thing is you're making mosaics and you're the one who has to touch all the things, you can still only make so many mosaics in a day. So can you come up with something like writing ebooks, or doing prints of things that can be automatically recreated? Like whatever that thing, if you can do something and make more money without touching it, that is the real secret sauce.
Yeah, assets, right? What assets can you build? Also, can you teach? Can you build a
Mm.
course? Can you teach live? There's so many things that if you get good at something, that you can then do with that, and teach it and share it. Yeah. We could brainstorm business ideas all day long. It's like my favorite space.
Yes.
I love it. And Mandy, now you're a coach and you're coaching entrepreneurial women. Tell us about GoBundance. How did it start and what's your mission?
I actually joined as a member because I felt crazy. I was in the medical device stuff before I left my W 2, and I was the only person I knew trying to buy these 50-unit apartment buildings. And actually was at like a block party and told a neighbor, like I had only bought fourplexes and sixplexes and smaller stuff, and then I bought the first 53, and I was so excited, guys. And I had worked so hard, and I at that block party, I shared with my neighbor that I had bought that, and she said, "Ah, must be nice." Because I mean, it's outside the scope of what felt real or normal or achievable to her. But I wanted a high five. I worked really hard, So I wanted to be around other women doing stuff that they didn't want to apologize for trying hard and building a really big, awesome life. And that they didn't want to give up being a mom or being healthy or going on adventures, right? So I actually, through a real estate podcast in the United States, found this GoBundance. And the minute that they started the women's division, I joined as a member. And then through meeting these women, had the bravery to leave my W-2. And as soon as I did, there was this opportunity to serve in leadership. And because I had all this extra space in my life. So our goal is to bring in accredited investors. This is for women who have found some level of success already that want to kind of graduate into a new room, to really be growing. And, maybe they've hit that ceiling of what they can do with their own hands, and they need to workshop with other people who have done it, how to get to that next level, right? So we help those women find the right people to build with, to scale without sacrifice is a thing that I really love to say there, and set goals not only around the money, because at some point, guys, you realize that when you got the money figured out to a certain degree, you realize that it's about, like, life is about so much more than it doesn't matter if my business is 8 figures or 9 figures. I'm going to wear the same black sweatshirt. What matters is, am I spending time daydreaming about the adventures I'm going to take my kid on? So that is what we do at GoBundance. I specifically buy apartment buildings. So I do also help women who want to buy apartment buildings learn how to do that.
Oh, amazing. I love it. I love it. And I think you make such a good point, like the value of community, the value of being in rooms with people who are on the same journey as you, because we know like entrepreneurship is a rare journey, and it's often people that are already within your circle don't understand that journey and may not fully support it. Most people tell you, no, be safe, find a safe job. Why would you take that risk? It's very scary to those on the outside who love you and want to support you. So it's never a bad thing, but you need to be around the rooms. And like sometimes you said, when you're ready to level up, you need to be around the rooms of those people who are there with you. Maybe who have already leveled up and are, got that hand down for you to hold, help pull you up. Right? All of that. Exactly. So the value of community cannot be overstated. It is so, so, so important. We believe in it strongly too. Vicki and I build communities as well of strong, resilient entrepreneurial women. So we love that is exactly what you're doing. And we love everything that you've shared today. So thank you so much for joining us. This was an amazing, powerful, empowering conversation. And yeah, you're doing great things. And thank you. We'll share all the stuff in the show notes that you mentioned. You mentioned some great books as well. Please read and learn and grow entrepreneurs out there, because that's what we get to do together in community. So thank you for being with us here on Resilient Entrepreneurs.